Hello and welcome to GP Doc Talk. I'm talking about anger today. It's every day in my work that I witness the damage done by anger, and it saddens me that society in general ignores this very powerful emotion and allows it to be a destructive force in so many ways. I often write poems about various subjects, and I have written a poem about anger, so I'll read it to you. I have to read it because I don't commit it to memory. Burning anger, burning strong within their eyes, all else goes cold. Burn they will the world around them. No easing of the fire that burns their soul, that burns our world. The embers started long ago, neglect, abuse, no nurturing for the soul. No world heated, the igniter being poured. A helpless soul transformed through years from softness to cold, to fury, to fire. And so our world burns. I think in the poem I'm trying to address the fact that angry young men are the end result of a traumatic childhood, and we don't address those factors so that then these young people aren't able to direct this anger in a constructive way. We often think of angry men because of their association, especially in domestic violence. But I don't want to ignore the fact that screaming people can be similarly destructive. So there is a stereotype of the screaming woman and the violent man, but certainly either sex can assume either behavior. But especially I think the screaming goes unnoticed in its destructive force. So screaming is your own ability to not cope with the situation and not the fault of all those around you. And screaming is never a great thing for children, unless it's to save their life because they're about to fall off something. But I think what society neglects to do is teach people how to deal with these primal emotions. Anger is universal. It can be a very empowering and life-saving emotion. So on the pathway of recovery, for example, from abuse or whatever, depression is often the immobilizing emotion, and it's very hard to recover from a state of emotion. And often one of the early steps out of depression is anger. And so anger can get the body moving, get you doing something instead of being in that immobilized state. So in that respect, I think we need to embrace it and use that power that it creates. But we need to make this change between this empowering emotion versus this destructive emotion. And that requires skill sets. And skill sets can be learned. And I think there's lots of good programs online. I think TED Talks are wonderful. I think there's anger management courses. There's lots of information available about anger control or direction. And I won't try to quote all those sites because I think they're wonderful. But I think if you acknowledge that you have an anger issue, then seeking out those kind of therapies is really important. And of course, there's always counselors for that as well. I think one of the major problems though with anger is the self-awareness of it. So many times the angry person blames everyone else around them and the world in general, which neglects their ability to heal from it. So you just have an angry person that stays angry all the time. And so those around him have to figure out how to be safe from that anger, which is a no-win situation for everyone. But in saying that, I think all of us should become aware of the warning signs of anger. It can be explosive, 1 minute's good, 1 minute's bad, and those are the most dangerous situations. But for many people, there are warning signs that you can either acknowledge yourself and become aware of them so you can redirect your own self, or those that are around you can think of safe solutions if you're headed down that track. So I like to quote a dog trainer who gave me good advice one time. I asked him, how do you prevent a dog fight? And he said, you don't let them fight. And his point was, if the dogs are at the point of fighting, then you missed a lot of warning signs where you could have intervened. So their tail goes up, their body tenses, their whole body changes basically. And it's the same for people. For most people, you can see that anger pathway developing, and generally you know what the outcome is going to be. Anger is your body's brain saying, I'm exploding, there's too much input, I can't cope with it, so I'm gonna lash out at everything and get rid of it so that I can cope again. So it's acknowledging that it's your brain's own inability to think of another solution that causes anger. It's not somebody else's fault. Yes, people will do bad things, but you can take two people viewing the same thing and one will think of a productive answer and one will lash out in anger. So it can be a different pathway we choose other than anger to sort out a situation. So I don't want to say we should eliminate anger. I know that it saves lives. I know that it immobilizes people in dangerous situations. It mobilizes people when they're in a dangerous situation. So I think we need to acknowledge that it's a primal emotion that we all have. But for those that are struggling, especially for those people that have had trauma in their lives, it can become very destructive. So if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, it's recognizing your triggers and your flashbacks and how that unleashes a set of emotions and developing a skill set to alter that. I don't think any society that I'm aware of does a great job at teaching, especially young people, how to direct their emotions in a constructive way. But I think if we could raise self-awareness, that it is something that we can talk about and heal from, rather than assume that someone has an anger issue and they're going to stay violent or screaming or destructive their whole life. Because then you're writing off the chance for better outcomes for both the person, the people around them, and for society in general. So we don't have to recount all the things that are happening in the news about angry societies in general attacking another angry society. So my goal is to try to raise awareness of anger, both in your own self and those around you, and try to think about it as being a positive emotion with the potential for growth and healing, rather than allowing it to overcome your brain so then it's a destructive force. And quit looking to blame others, but harnessing your own power for your own growth.